My father disappeared for years, then showed up after Mom died to steal my inheritance. What happened next left our entire family in shock. 3 weeks ago, my mom lost her battle with MS after fighting it for years. I'm heartbroken, and my situation has gotten so much worse because of my dad. My dad, James, 45M, and Mom, Sarah, 42F, were technically still married, but he was basically never around my entire life. I have maybe 10 actual memories of him from my childhood. He would show up for a day or two every few months, act like Father of the Year, then disappear again. Mom never badmouthed him. She just said he wasn't ready for family life but refused to divorce him for reasons I never fully understood. I think she always hoped he'd come back for real someday. When Mom got diagnosed with MS 5 years ago, things got rough fast. She had the progressive type and declined pretty quickly. I became her primary caregiver at 12, while trying to keep up with school. My Uncle Mark, 38M, Mom's brother, helped us a lot financially and with doctor appointments, but he lives 2 hours away, so the daily stuff fell on me. The weird thing is that when Mom got really sick about a year ago, my dad suddenly started showing up more. At first, it was once a month, then weekly. He'd bring groceries, help with some house maintenance, and even took Mom to a few appointments. I was suspicious, but Mom seemed happy, so I kept my thoughts to myself. He never stayed overnight, though always had some excuse about a work emergency. Mom passed away on March 20. The funeral was small since we don't have much family, just me, Uncle Mark, my Grandma Helen, 64F, Mom's mom, and a few of Mom's friends from her support group. Dad showed up too and actually seemed upset, which surprised me. Then everything changed. Yesterday, I came home from school to find my dad in our living room with a bunch of papers spread out on the coffee table. He told me he was sorting things out now that Mom was gone. I asked what he meant, and that's when he dropped the bomb. Since he and Mom were still legally married, he had inherited everything: our house, Mom's savings, her car, everything. I was in shock. Mom had always told me the house would be mine when I turned 18, which is in 7 months. She had been so careful about making sure I'd be okay, but apparently, she never made a will. Dad said he was being generous by letting me stay in the house until I graduated high school, but then I needed to find somewhere else to live because he was planning to sell it. Then he handed me a list of house rules, things like a 9:00 p.m. curfew, no friends over, I had to maintain straight A's, and I had to get his permission before spending any money. He said he'd be moving in this weekend to keep an eye on things. When I started crying, he told me to grow up and that I should be grateful he wasn't making me leave immediately. I called Uncle Mark right away, who told me to lock the doors and not let my dad back in. He drove straight over and got here around midnight. This morning we went to see Grandma Helen, who was furious. She said Mom had definitely made a will with her lawyer about 2 years ago and that she'd witnessed it herself. We spent the day trying to track down Mom's lawyer. Uncle Mark finally reached him, and we have an appointment tomorrow. Dad has been blowing up my phone all day, saying I'm being manipulated by my uncle and grandma, and that they just want Mom's money for themselves. He even threatened to call the police and report that Uncle Mark was trespassing in his house. I'm so scared and confused. I just lost my mom, and now I might lose my home too. All these years, when Dad wasn't around, Mom and I struggled so much. She worked 2 jobs until she got too sick. I got a part-time job at 15 to help with bills. I watched Mom suffer through this horrible disease, and where was he? Now he shows up like he owns everything. Uncle Mark is helping me look for Mom's important papers. We found her filing cabinet, but a bunch of stuff seems to be missing. I remember seeing a folder with her will and insurance papers a few months ago when we were organizing her medical documents, but now it's gone. Dad had access to the house several times when I was at school, and I'm worried he might have taken it. There's also something else bothering me. Dad kept talking about how Mom never took care of herself, and that's why she declined so fast. But that's not true at all. Mom followed every treatment plan religiously. She did physical therapy even when it hurt so bad she cried. She tried every diet and supplement her doctors recommended. She fought so hard to stay with me as long as possible. I also don't understand why he suddenly started coming around more last year. At first, I thought maybe he actually cared that Mom was dying, but now I wonder if he was just positioning himself to take everything when she was gone. The timing seems suspicious, especially since he never showed any interest in being part of our lives before. Mom's MS support group friends have been amazing. They've been bringing food and checking on me. One of them, Linda, 51F, told me that Mom had mentioned to her that she was worried about what would happen to me. Linda said Mom was trying to set up a trust or something for me, but I don't know if she ever finished it. The thing that hurts the most is that I really believed Dad was changing during his visits this past year. He would talk to me about school and seemed interested in my life for the first time ever. He helped me with college application essays and even took me to visit a campus. I actually started to hope we might have some kind of relationship. Now I feel like such an idiot. Uncle Mark is sleeping on our couch for now. He took a week off work to help me figure this out. Grandma Helen offered to let me move in with her, but her apartment is tiny, and she lives in a senior community that doesn't allow permanent residents under 55. Plus, this is my home. Mom and I picked out every piece of furniture together. The garden out back has plants we've been growing for years. I can't imagine leaving it all. Dad keeps saying I'm being ungrateful and disrespectful. He says he has legal rights as my father and as Mom's husband. But where were those rights when Mom needed help with medical bills? Where were they when I was learning to give her injections because she couldn't do it herself anymore? Where were they during all the birthdays and holidays he missed? I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow at the lawyer's office. I'm trying to prepare myself for bad news. If Dad really does own everything, I don't know what I'll do. I'm planning to go to college in the fall, but I was counting on being able to live at home to save money. I have some savings from my part-time job, but not enough for rent and living expenses. I'm also worried about what will happen if Dad actually moves in. I don't want to live with someone who abandoned us and is now trying to control me and take everything. Mom worked but I'm still a minor for 7 more months, and I don't know if I have any legal right to refuse. If anyone has been through something similar or has any advice, I would really appreciate it. I feel completely lost right now. Update: it's been 2 weeks since my last post, and things have gotten so much worse than I could have imagined. I want to thank everyone who commented with advice and support. It really helped me feel less alone during this nightmare. First, some good news: we found Mom's will. It was in a safe deposit box at the bank. Mom had added Uncle Mark as an authorized user, but he'd forgotten about it until my grandma reminded him. The will leaves everything to me, with Uncle Mark as the executor until I turn 25. There's even a trust for my college education. When we confronted Dad with the will, he completely lost it. He started yelling that it wasn't valid because he hadn't consented to it as her husband. The lawyer explained that in our state, a spouse can leave their personal property to whoever they want. The only thing Dad might have claimed would be a portion of assets acquired during their marriage. But since Dad never contributed financially after the first few years, and Mom bought our house entirely on her own, after they separated, he doesn't have much ground to stand on. Dad stormed out of the lawyer's office, promising this wasn't over. We thought he might try to contest the will, which would be annoying, but our lawyer seemed confident we would win. What we didn't expect was what came next. Last weekend, I started getting weird texts from friends asking if I was okay and if the rumors were true. I had no idea what they were talking about until my best friend, Zoe, came over and showed me what was happening on social media. Dad had apparently been telling people that Mom didn't actually die from miss. He was suggesting that Uncle Mark and I had been slowly poisoning her to get her money. I was absolutely horrified. Dad was telling distant family members, neighbors, and even calling Mom's friends directly, spreading this disgusting lie. He claimed that Mom had confided in him during his visits that she suspected something was wrong with her medications and that she was experiencing symptoms that weren't typical for Miss. He said he had found evidence in the house that Uncle Mark and I were researching untraceable poisons. This is so unbelievably false that at first I thought no one would believe it. But Dad has always been charming and convincing when he wants to be, and because he was technically still married to Mom and started showing up more. During her final year, some people who didn't know the full history of his absence are actually taking him seriously. Two of Mom's cousins who live across the country and hadn't seen her in years called my grandma, accusing our family of murder. Our next-door neighbor, who used to bring us meals occasionally, now glares at me when I get the mail and pulled her kid away when they were walking past me on the sidewalk. Someone even called in an anonymous tip to the police, suggesting they should investigate Mom's death. Thankfully, the police officer who came by knew Mom from community events and was familiar with her condition. After a brief conversation with Uncle Mark and checking Mom's extensive medical records documenting her disease progression, he assured us this was going nowhere from a legal standpoint. But the damage to our reputation has been done. Uncle Mark contacted a lawyer about a defamation case, but was told that it would be difficult and expensive to pursue, especially since we're still dealing with the will situation. The lawyer suggested we focus on damage control instead. The worst part is that some of Dad's lies are carefully crafted half-truths. Mom did have unusual symptoms sometimes because MS can affect people in different ways, and her medication had side effects. I did research poisons once for a chemistry paper last year about historical assassination methods. Uncle Mark did transfer some of Mom's money right before she died to pay for funeral arrangements she had planned. Dad is twisting all these normal things into something sinister, and it's working with people who don't know us well. My grandma had to change her phone number because of harassing calls. I've had to make all my social media accounts private after getting horrible messages. Two families even pulled their kids out of the tutoring sessions I run at the library. Some people have stood by us, thankfully. Mom's closest friends from her support group know exactly how her disease progressed and have been defending us. My school counselor has been amazing and arranged for me to take some of my classes online. After a group of kids started whispering killer when I walked by in the hallway, Uncle Mark has temporarily moved in with me until things settle down. His boss has been understanding about him working remotely. We've installed security cameras after finding our mailbox damaged and trash dumped on our lawn twice. The strangest thing happened yesterday, though. A woman I didn't recognize approached me at the grocery store. She seemed nervous and kept looking around like she was afraid of being seen talking to me. She told me her name was Melissa, and that she used to work with my dad at his previous job about 5 years ago. She said she had heard about what was happening from mutual connections and wanted to warn me that Dad has done similar things before. According to Melissa, Dad was fired from that job after he tried to frame a coworker who had reported him for expense account fraud. Dad apparently created an elaborate story about the coworker stealing client information, complete with fabricated evidence. The company investigated and found it was all lies, but by then, the coworker's reputation had been damaged. Melissa gave me her phone number and said she would be willing to talk to our lawyer if it would help. She also mentioned that Dad had talked about a girlfriend during the time he worked there, which confused me since he was supposed to be married to Mom. She didn't know the girlfriend's name, but said Dad mentioned taking trips with her. Uncle Mark and I have decided to do some deeper digging into Dad's past. If he's been living some kind of double life or has a pattern of this behavior, it might help us understand what we're dealing with and maybe even help with our legal case if he keeps pushing the inheritance issue. I still can't wrap my head around how someone could make up such horrible lies about their own daughter. Every time I think about Dad accusing me of killing my mom, I feel physically sick. Mom was everything to me. I spent years taking care of her, watching her struggle, holding her hand through treatments that didn't work. How could he twist that love and dedication into something so evil? For now, we're focused on protecting ourselves legally and emotionally. The lawyer is handling the will execution, and we've started documenting every single instance of Dad's defamation in case we need it later. Uncle Mark has been incredible through all of this, taking time off work, dealing with legal stuff, and just being there for me. I'll update again when we know more. Thank you all for your support. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and we've uncovered the truth about my dad, and it's even worse than we imagined. After getting that tip from Melissa about Dad possibly having a girlfriend, Uncle Mark decided to hire a private investigator. It was expensive, but my uncle insisted it was necessary to understand what we were dealing with. The pie only needed a week to uncover something shocking. My dad has been living a complete double life for the past 15 years. He has another family, a long-term girlfriend named Sophia, 39F, and 2 kids, a boy, 14M, and a girl, 12F. They live about 3 hours away in a different city. Based on the timeline, he started his relationship with Sophia just 2 years after I was born, while he was still with my mom. The pie got us their address and some background information, but advised against confronting them directly. Uncle Mark and I discussed it for days. We were worried that Dad might have told them lies about us, too, especially with how he's been acting lately. But eventually, we decided we needed to talk to Sophia. Last Saturday, Uncle Mark and I drove to their address. It was a nice house in a suburban neighborhood with a basketball hoop in the driveway and a swing set in the backyard. It felt surreal seeing this whole other life my dad had built while abandoning me and Mom. When Sophia answered the door, she looked confused but not hostile. We introduced ourselves, and I'll never forget the look on her face when I said I was James's daughter. She went completely pale. She invited us in hesitantly, explaining that the kids were at sports practices and wouldn't be home for hours. The inside of their house was filled with family photos, my dad smiling with Sophia and the kids on vacations, at school events, holidays. There were more pictures of him in that house than I had seen in my entire life. It made me feel sick. We sat down in their living room, and Sophia immediately asked if my mom knew about them. I explained that Mom had died recently, and as far as I knew, she never knew about this other family. Sophia looked genuinely upset about Mom's death, which surprised me. Then we started comparing notes, and the full extent of Dad's deception became clear to us. To me, he was the absent father who occasionally showed up for a day or two before disappearing again. To Sophia and her kids, he was a transportation consultant who traveled Monday through Thursday almost every week for work, but was reliably home Friday through Sunday. The times he had visited us more frequently during Mom's final year, he had told Sophia. He got a special project assignment that kept him local during weekdays, so he was working from home more often. She never questioned it because it meant he was around more, which they all enjoyed. Even more shocking, Sophia believed Dad was divorced. He told her the divorce was finalized right before they met, and that he had an unfavorable custody arrangement that only allowed him to see me occasionally. She said he would sometimes claim to be visiting me when he actually wasn't. All those years, she thought he was trying to maintain a relationship with me despite difficult circumstances. I showed Sophia pictures of Mom and me on my phone, including some from times when Dad was supposed to be traveling for work but was actually with us. She started crying and had to excuse herself to the bathroom for several minutes. When she came back, she was angry not at us, but at Dad. She said she had always sensed something wasn't quite right with his stories, but never imagined anything like this. She'd even suggested meeting me several times over the years, but Dad always had excuses for why it wasn't possible. The most disturbing part was learning that Dad had taken out a second mortgage on their house 6 months ago, claiming it was for a business investment. The timing lines up exactly with when he started visiting Mom more frequently. Sophia had no idea where that money actually went, and now we're wondering if he was planning to use it to contest Mom's will or for some other scheme. Sophia asked a lot of questions about Dad's recent behavior and the rumors he's been spreading. When we told her about his accusations that Uncle Mark and I poisoned Mom, she looked horrified. She said that didn't sound like the man she knew, but also admitted that she's been worried about his mental state recently. Apparently, he's been unusually agitated and secretive for the past few months. After talking for hours, we agreed that we needed to confront Dad together. Sophia suggested meeting at a public restaurant where he couldn't make a scene. She texted him, saying they needed to discuss something important about the kids, and he agreed to meet for lunch tomorrow. Uncle Mark, Grandma Helen, and I will be there too. Sophia thinks it's better if her kids aren't present for this confrontation, so she's arranged for them to stay with a friend. We're all nervous about how Dad will react when he realizes his two separate lives are colliding, but we need answers, and we need him to stop his smear campaign against my family. The pie also found other concerning information about Dad's past. Apparently, he's been fired from at least 3 jobs for various ethical violations, has a history of credit card debt, and even had a restraining order filed against him by an ex-girlfriend before he met my mom. It's like we're discovering a completely different person than the man we thought we knew. I still can't process how someone could maintain such elaborate lies for so many years. Did he ever actually care about any of us? Was anything he ever told me true? It's hard not to question every interaction and memory now. Part of me feels sorry for Sophia and her kids. They're about to have their world turned upside down just like mine was. At least I grew up with minimal expectations of Dad, but they thought he was devoted to them. Their sense of betrayal must be even worse than mine. I'll update after the confrontation tomorrow. I have no idea how it's going to go, but at least now we know the truth, and Dad can't manipulate us with lies anymore. Update 3. It's been 2 months since my last update. A lot has happened, and I've needed time to process everything before sharing this final update. The confrontation with my dad at the restaurant went about as well as you might expect, which is to say it was a complete disaster. When he walked in and saw all of us sitting together, he froze for a second. I almost felt bad for him. He looked genuinely terrified. But then I remembered all the lies and pain he caused, and any sympathy vanished. Sophia spoke first, asking him calmly how he could maintain such elaborate deceptions for 15 years. Dad tried to deny everything at first, claiming we were conspiring against him. When that didn't work, he attempted to leave, but Uncle Mark blocked his path. Eventually, cornered and exposed, Dad broke down. He admitted everything: the double life, the lies, taking Mom's papers, spreading rumors about us, but instead of apologizing, he tried to justify it all. He said he felt trapped in his marriage to Mom, but didn't want to lose access to me, which makes no sense given how absent he was. He claimed he truly loved Sophia and their kids, but couldn't bear to tell them about his past. He insisted he only started the rumors about Uncle Mark and me because he was desperate and felt we were stealing what was rightfully his. The whole thing was pathetic, no real remorse, just excuses and self-pity. Grandma Helen, who's usually the calmest person I know, completely lost it. She told him exactly what she thought of him in terms I won't repeat here. I've never seen my grandmother so angry. The restaurant manager eventually asked us to leave because we were disturbing the other customers. In the parking lot, Sophia gave Dad an ultimatum. He could either publicly retract all the accusations he'd made against me and Uncle Mark, or she would file for full custody of their kids and a restraining order based on his pattern of deception and emotional abuse. She had already spoken to a lawyer and had evidence of the financial deception with the second mortgage. Dad agreed to retract everything. The next day, he sent emails to everyone he'd contacted with his poisoning story, admitting he had lied due to emotional distress over Mom's death. He also posted a public apology on social media. It didn't fix all the damage to our reputation, but it helped. As for the inheritance issue, our lawyer sent a formal cease and desist letter, and Dad hasn't contested the will since. The lawyer thinks he probably consulted his own attorney, who told him he had no case. Plus, with Sophia now aware of his schemes, he lost his financial backing. I haven't spoken to Dad since that day. and I don't plan to anytime soon. I've blocked his number and all his social media. Uncle Mark helped me file for legal emancipation since I'm so close to 18 anyway, and with my circumstances, it was granted pretty quickly. This means Dad has no legal control over me anymore. Surprisingly, Sophia and I have stayed in touch. After the initial shock wore off, we met for coffee a few times. She's actually really nice, smart, funny, and genuinely caring. She's filed for full custody of her kids and is in the process of legally changing their last name to her maiden name. Dad has allowed supervised visitation, but from what Sophia has told me, he's only shown up twice in the past 2 months. I've also met my half-siblings. That was weird at first, but we're slowly building a relationship. They're still processing their own feelings about Dad's deception, but they seem like good kids. My half-brother is into computer programming like me, so we have that in common. Uncle Mark moved back to his own place last month, but he still checks in on me regularly. I'm planning to start college in the fall as originally intended. Mom's trust will cover my tuition and expenses, and I can stay in our house. I've been working on fixing up the garden. Mom always loved her flower beds, and maintaining them makes me feel close to her. Most of the neighbors have come around after Dad's public retraction. A few still give me odd looks, but I've learned to ignore it. My part-time tutoring job at the library is back to normal attendance, and I even picked up more students preparing for finals. Grandma Helen has been my rock through all of this. She stays with me some weekends, and we go through old photos of Mom together. She's been telling me stories about Mom's childhood that I never knew. It helps keep Mom's memory alive in a positive way instead of being overshadowed by all this drama. The hardest part is still dealing with Mom's absence while trying to make sense of Dad's betrayal. Some days are better than others. On bad days, I visit Mom's grave and talk to her. I like to think she'd be proud of how I've handled everything. I don't know if I'll ever understand how Dad could live such a compartmentalized life for so many years, or what made him suddenly try to take everything from me after Mom died. Maybe he has some undiagnosed mental health issues, or maybe he's just selfish and opportunistic. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. I'm focused on moving forward now. This whole experience has taught me a lot about resilience and who I can really count on. I'm lucky to have Uncle Mark, Grandma Helen, and now, unexpectedly, Sophia and my half-siblings. Family isn't always who you think it is, but I've found mine.